Tony, Lenny going today? I guess he is.
Lenny will not be here today.
Okay, I'll write that
Ready?
down.
Whenever you
Corey, you ready?
Yep.
We stand for the pledge. Prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic that stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father God, we open our hearts to you. We love you and we want you to direct our paths. We all want to do the right thing and we just want you to show us what that is and give us the courage to do it when the time is right. In your name, amen.
fingers crossed.
Should have all received the minutes from the previous meeting. Any additions, corrections, additions?
I move to approve.
Second.
Yep. Got it.
Motion to approve the minutes as presented. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Holly, you're up.
So we had the health board meeting this month on the 4th of this month, and I was doing my report and explaining to them how my turnover rate for my part-time nurse is quite a bit. So just to give you an idea, I've gone through 4 or 5 nurses in 2.5 years, part-time nurses. I'm the only nurse right now. The health board suggested that I come and ask if we could make that part-time nurse a time nurse. The reasoning is due to the high turnover rate. I just lost my part-time nurse. She's wonderful. Went someplace for more money an hour. So that's basically what's happening. We're training them. They're doing really good. It takes about a year and a half to get them up and running because my population's a little different. So for them to get on the vaccine schedule, it takes a little time to get the hang of it. So they're either doing that or I have part-time nurses, retired nurses that come on and say, we're not ready to retire yet. So they come in and work, and they usually work maybe a year or two, and they decide I want to retire permanently. So I've had a really high turnover rate. So I'm just kind of asking if we can make that, part-time a full-time position, due to vaccination rates have increased with the measles, whooping cough out there and everything else. Actually, I did kind of a comparison a year ago to today. I've doubled my vaccine rates, my MMR's doubled, my whooping coughs almost doubled. So my vaccinations are doubling. Also, our school liaison has been reaching out to the Amish bishops, and they're kind of thinking, and I don't want to tell them no if they say yes, because it's my opportunity to open that door about allowing us to come and do vaccine clinics at their schools, which would be really awesome. I think that would be getting our foot in the door. We could do that. That would be great. I don't know if you guys realize, but we have close to 50 some Amish schools, so we got quite a few out there. We're providing more services. We're partnering with people and trying to provide more services with our community. Also trying to do more outreach like blood pressures. I'm trying to go do blood pressures. We're doing more satellite clinics. Me, myself, and I do. So I'm just kind of coming and see if we could do that full time, but also would help with continuity. If we had somebody there full time, if I was gone, a lot of times Kristen, as our clinic officer manager, like I was on Friday, it always happens when you're gone, they call, people are calling. So on my day off, I'm working and we have somebody there to fill in. That would also be really nice. Also lead rates are going up because I don't know if you guys know, a couple years ago, they changed the lead reportable limits. So now it's lower. So we're getting more lead kiddos too. Just things are evolving and changing. So that's kind of why I'm here, because the health board kind of thought might be a good idea.
So what does that mean financially as far as wages and benefits? Do you have any information on that,
We've
Shannon?
briefly discussed the possibility, but we have not been through the full process of creating a job description, because the only one we have right now is for Holly's position and then part-time RN. And then obviously it would have to be approved by the commissioners, the position, and then you guys would have to decide whether you want to fund it. It needs to go through like the whole shebang. I think right now it's in HFI funding, but I don't know if you guys heard that's going to be decreasing too. So I think Jessica had put it in for the HFI funding, but we're not quite sure where they're gonna go with that. So I know right now we're doing 24.98. I think that's what you had it posted for a part-time nurse. I'm not sure full-time, that only comes up to be around 51,000. I think you're probably gonna have to be around 55. Like I said, my part-time nurse left for $10 more an hour. That's quite a bit.
So another part-time position or a full-time?
Time position.
And this, right now, part-time does not have benefits. But full-time, of course, would.
And their budget has so much going on with like grants and all kinds of stuff that we would need to sit down and look at specifically what, is dedicated to the Makeup Five versus what's available, what's been requested. Like, I think there's a lot that kind of needs to be done before it gets to the point where you guys are ready to say yes or no, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think we need more information. Like, I I don't remember personally exactly what all funding is involved in the health department.
I know right now the
So-
one part-time nurse is funded by one of the,
I can't remember the number, but there's a grant.
a
for it.
grant for that
It's like a
too.
vaccine grant.
Yep. I'm not sure how much is in there.
Yeah.
I don't do the budget, so,
It's just off your memory, Shannon, not sticking you, but is that grant go to specifically a part-time or can that be applied to a full-time?
I don't know if it's specifically for part-time. I believe it's just labeled vaccines, like immunizations is all it is. So I think it could be one of the ones where we split it out to pull, let's say, half the salary from immunizations and then half the salary from somewhere else if we needed to. But we just would need to sit down and look at that. Like I said, they have a lot of grants that they work with, and I don't know all of them. I'm not familiar with all of them to have to say confidently that there's the money for it.
So can we find out what that would be as far as the full package, wages and benefits? And then ultimately how we would fund, what you're thinking as far as funding, whether that's grants or whether you're wanting more from the general fund or whatever fund it may be, I don't know, but I think we need more information before we could just say yes or no.
And Holly, do you have an administrator, a secretary or anything?
why?
Yeah,
Yeah, Kristen's the clinic manager.
so it's just you and,
So right now, I just have 3 full-time. It's myself, Kristen, who's the clinic manager, like the front desk and does all the charting and does charts and stuff like that. And then I have a school liaison. So and she's not an RN, so the school liaison is the one who's where I found out about the Amish schools wanting to request. So the school liaison, that would be Sadie Curtis. She's also full-time.
but just one full-time nurse. Is there a part-time right now or have they left?
Not that things have to be exactly the same, but could we take a look at a few other counties in similar size to see what they look like personnel wise and get an idea as well?
Like some of them, like I can tell you right now. I can tell you DeKalb County, which is similar to us, they've got 2 full-time nurses and their school liaison is also a nurse, so they can fill her in, so they actually have 3 full-time nurses.
If I remember correctly, the school liaison that's part of a grant, right?
Yeah, HFI right now, yeah, but I think that's getting, she's a grant funded person. Yeah. I can get those, statistics on how many nurses are at.
Okay, and again, what we're thinking as far as how we're gonna fund it and all that.
I wouldn't be opposed to moving up to a full-time just for, like she said, redundancy. You leave or something happens, you need some sort of backup system.
Now I'm getting close to maxing out in PTO. Can't take it because can't call the Amish and say, we don't have a nurse because you got to pretty much do everything by this letter. We do have access to our phones, but we don't have a nurse, so.
Yeah, I guess, is that gonna be something you're gonna address in your budget proposal too? I assume.
Things aren't discussed with me, so I don't know. On the budget.
What do you mean?
So who does the budget for you then? Okay, well, you might want to get with her to discuss it.
Yeah, it'd be a good time for us to look into it too, as far as grants and what's available. So I'll be looking forward to seeing that on the budget.
Yeah.
Any more questions or?
Me either.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Sure. 724. 5327. We did option 1 for the clinic. Yep, thank you.
Nothing to report. Currently working on an ordinance, joint ordinance with the commissioners to create a fund, a non-reverting fund, self-funded for disbursement of monies within the IT's budget to the various departments. So
I'll be bringing that up in a minute.
so that's what I'm working on, but outside of that, nothing to report.
Yeah, I guess a quick question.
Sure.
Commissioners, if it moves to full-time position, does that go through you guys first?
Yes.
Okay.
We would have to approve that, yes.
And the wage review committee meets, she pulls a whole bunch of analysis, compares the counties, so I just think somehow we got a little premature on that one.
Yeah, there's a whole process that we've got to go through first to make sure that we've got all our boxes checked, so.
Thank God. You ready? You ready for me?
Julie's done.
I'm finished. Yes, thank you.
Yes, go ahead.
Hey, look, I'm gonna bring up something, but first, let's get out of the way the salary ordinance and transfer by resolution. You should have received those. Let's do the transfer first.
I'll move to approve all transfers.
Corey,
Second.
Fred.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Corey and Fred, make the motion in the second. Transfers.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And the amended salary ordinance. So I'm guessing they're just, placement positions, I would assume. In the jail and the E911, unless Dan wants to speak to that at all. I'll leave it up to you guys to make a motion on it.
I'll make a motion to accept.
John Second. and Bob.
Moved and seconded to approve the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Would you like to sign these first? Two of them, and then I'll pass them around to Corey or pick them up later. Okay, the next thing I want to bring up. Once I find my information. Julie touched on it briefly. We've had for a few months now a collaborative effort to answer some of. Mike, why don't you and Eric and Bart, everybody come up that was part of the meetings that we, not necessarily that you have to say much. I'll do the talking, but one of the first things that was an issue was the other cities, towns, police department, fire departments, that type of thing. How we could effectively bill them for IT services. In looking in the chart of accounts, I found fund number 4016, IT services. We then got with State Board of Accounts. As a matter of fact, everything that I'm going to discuss today, we have worked hand in hand with State Board of Accounts to know that it is doable. Okay, so 4016 is going to have all the municipalities. Julie and Reed Clayton are working on an ordinance that actually council has to pass so that this non-reverting fund will be self-funded by the dollars coming back in from those municipalities. So the money isn't just coming back into county general, it's going into that fund so that council can keep track of all of that. We're also in the process of looking at some interlocal agreements and working on a formula to get some revenues back for the labor and mileage that our IT department incurs. Right now, we get hardware and licensing back from them, but we get no labor or anything like that. So interlocal agreements are working on a formula that can be done as well. So all of that takes care of the municipalities. We also, because Indiana Office of Technology is pretty much demanding it in order for you to get grants, we have to create a line that is cybersecurity. So we can take out of 9,600 the things that are cybersecurity. Anybody else's budget that has cybersecurity related things, and it can go into what will become 9602 or 9603, whatever number we give it. And that is a way to have cybersecurity separated out. We can also separate out GIS, which is not, it shouldn't be in Mike's actual budget. And we've also figured out a way, even though this year it might be too much of a task to figure out, but the following year we'll be able to have the departments have their own IT line. This will give Mike time to work with us to figure out, you break out computer hardware and the things that could be taken out of 9,600. And you guys will be able to see how much each department spends because they'll have their own dedicated line for IT that only Mike and our office can use. So all of that makes things more transparent, makes Mike's budget more livable. And I think with the blessings of State Board that we've had, and the collaboration that we've had with all of this, frankly, a lot of the work will fall on Mike and Glenda, but I think they're both willing to do that. I think I've mentioned pretty much all that you guys will be seeing when budget time comes, how it's going to be different. And obviously budget approval is you guys. But I think you're going to like what you see. I like the interlocal agreement idea to get more user fees, as Dennis would say, from the municipalities and so forth. So Mike, do you want to say any words at all on why this was needed or how it feels to you? Do you like it?
I love it. It's been what I've been asking for 8 years, over 8 years. And I gotta praise some people that are in this room, the people that were part of the change management meetings that we've had for a long time, which Stan's been there, Fred's been coming regularly. John was there before Fred. We've had a lot of input by people. We've had people that have listened, falls into Tony, Shannon, and Glenda. They've really helped out. They've really listened. And then the state comes up and says, we got to have this in place anyway by 2027. And we're already losing out on grant money. We've been rejected again from grant money because we don't have this stuff set up. So the states come in with IoT and they said, you better start working on this stuff because it's going to be mandatory by 2027 that your budgeting is going to be in this kind of a format. We're going to have it. So we're doing it early because we're missing out on grant money. Second year in a row, we missed out on grant money because we don't have these things in place. We don't have adequate food plans. We can't show a disaster recovery plan because we don't have anything set up in budgeting to show the state that we're serious about this. And, so all the people I mentioned, thank you so much. This has been really good. And it's been something that I wanted to see early on when I came in, and now we're starting to put the pieces in place. Hopefully, we'll have it mostly completed by the time I retire next year. So this is not gonna be easy to get all this stuff done. But I want to leave it to whoever replaces me. It becomes very clear on what we use and what we pay for what we use. It can't be the way it was when I came in, where I didn't have a clue on what we were using, what we were paying for, or anything like that. So thanks everybody in the room participated in this. I know that times we had some very heated meetings, but you know what? Everybody came back into the room at the next meeting, and we met again and we talked about it and we got things going, and I believe we're on the right track.
I think this also, I mean, allows us to kind of formalize our relationship with the interlocal agreements and and all that stuff to help formalize the agreements with the other entities within the county, and then also set some criteria for them to be on our system, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they'll have to follow that criteria or not be on our system essentially.
Yeah, we got a big one yet, it's with insurance.
Yeah, and insurance is a big,
Cyber insurance, that's
yeah.
a big one.
that was a big
If
topic
we-
of our
if we
discussion.
if we can't get these other communities to come on board, we're gonna be in serious issues.
Yeah.
If we have something that takes place, this is gonna be severe.
I'm gonna get with Bixler Insurance probably today and ask them to find out what the other entities have as far as cybersecurity insurance and figure out what needs to be done so that they can all be on our network and be covered. So I'll get with Bixler today and start figuring that part out.
Just a snapshot of that for,
Sheriff, you had something to say?
Oh, I can wait till you get to.
just a snapshot about the insurance is that ultimately, everybody's got different insurances, and if we were to have an event of some kind, they start battling it out and nobody wants to pay anything.
Yeah.
And so ultimately, I mean, my preference would be that we all be under the same policy, and so maybe that's what it has to be.
They
maybe
share
not,
the cost
but
in that.
we need to find out what that is, but go ahead, Dan.
I just, for you guys, not sure what it might look like, if you look at the sheriff's budget, we already been doing this with our IT costs. And I budget for computers, and I go to Mike, say, Mike, I need 6 or 12 new computers in the cars. He tells me what I'm buying, so it works well, but it's already in my budget, and he just sends me the invoice. So I think it's great for the department heads, to keep them involved. They know what their people need more than what Mike does. It's just they need to tell Mike, okay, I need computers, I need a printer, I need this. Don't go buy it. Go through Mike and buy it, because he's got the purchase agreement, he can get a better price, but it works out great. So having everybody go to that method, I think is wonderful. You guys can see what's being spent. Mike doesn't know what I need, but I tell Mike, this is what I need. He goes, gets what works with the systems, and then he sends me the invoice and it's paid for. And I think it works great, and I think it will benefit the whole county over the next couple of years, once department heads get used to having to watch what they need instead of calling Mike when it's broke and it's outdated. This keeps them much more in tune with their office, in my opinion.
That was part of our discussion yesterday when we all got together upstairs. So, does anybody have questions? I also want to say I appreciate the attorneys who are really helping out with this as well. Mark Clayton and Julie Marie, not only with the ordinance, but helping with interlocal agreements. And they've been very involved in helping us with this as well. So it's truly been a collaborative effort. And I'm glad we're making headway. Anybody have questions?
Yeah, this isn't we're not voting, it's just information.
Just information.
It's all on your end.
Next month, you should have the ordinance approving the non-reverting 4016 fund, because we have to start paying into that so that it can start being used in 26. It has to be self-funding. And we'll start paying into that just as soon as you guys adopt it. The other stuff you'll see when you look at budgets in, what is it, August, end of August? All the things that we're talking about now will be in there for you all to see. So.
It all sounds good to me. I just want to make sure I'm following it. So the new non-reverting fund would be its own standalone fund, right? And then the different departments would have like sub-accounts under that? Okay.
Well, we're going to have, for example, auditor is 002. We will have, what's that number, 45200?
42500 is the account for.
42500.
But he's talking about like Decatur PD, City of Decatur, remember those?
Right, that's what I'm talking about with 416.
Yeah.
The other things we're talking about, like Sheriff Dan said, he has that line in his budget. That'll be in all departments' budgets.
So all the departments' budgets will look a little bit bigger, but then his is gonna look smaller.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So the way it was described to me is Mike had $150,000 in his budget to buy computers for the whole county. You guys did not know where those computers went. You just saw that he bought $150,000 worth of computers. You're now going to be able to see what department purchased where he bought those computers and what department.
So when we told everybody 10% over last year's spend, we'll just need to add that back in.
Yeah.
Cause then they can get 10% plus that, cause that wouldn't be. fair to-
Although Mike and I did kind of discuss yesterday that we will put that
10%, whatever. number.
7%.
Yeah.
I like that.
I like the 10 better. We will put those lines in the departments for 26 budget, but they might just be zeroed out so that Mike has more time to break out the cost and have it in the 27 budget.
Those meetings take a long time with me. Typically, when I was working with the cities, towns, an individual meeting for each department, like in the city of Decatur, each department, I spent 2 hours with each department, in the city of Decatur, going through because no one understands licensing and what they need and what they have to purchase. And then they have questions after they hear it the first time. Then I get repeat calls. When we come back, we don't understand some stuff yet. I'm not gonna have this meetings with our departments in Apps County government before the budget, so suggesting that we put the line item in, but it's gonna be zeroed. 2026, and then when we get into 2026 for 2027, then I'll have time to meet with the departments and we can actually be putting numbers into there. And discuss what it.
So for this budget that we're gonna do in August, you're saying, well, I'm not trying to repeat, I just wanna make sure I'm following. So we'll put a 0 in theirs. The line item will be there, so they kind of get used to it, but it'll be a 0.
Right.
We'll still have the dollars in yours for this one.
Yes.
And then next year, then yours will go down and theirs will go up.
Right.
Gotcha.
Now,
And
out of
there's
his will be
things too.
cybersecurity.
Yeah, and there's things too that I mentioned, this is gonna help out drastically, because there's things that I budget for that I don't see where it's being paid for, and I know that just sounds crazy to you. But somehow, I'm not even seeing the invoices on some of these things, and it's causing us trouble right now with particular people dealing with security and circuits and so on, but that mentality that we've had over the timeline. So now it's gonna, I form the contracts with these people, so when I go in to even do anything to help pay bills, if it's not coming from me or the director of IT, they're not even allowing like Glenda to be able to pay the bills. And so we gotta figure out whatever the methods that we're doing before, it has to be changed. And those things have to be paid under my budget for the cybersecurity part. So.
And then you're saying there'll be an entirely new account. That's the non-reverting fund. And that one
Yes.
is for the other entities.
Municipalities,
And everything
Yeah.
feeds into
And then
that.
they'll pay into that.
Yeah.
Based
Right.
on whatever calculation.
and that carries over into that same fund.
And they currently pay whatever they're paying.
They have
Is
interlocal
it gonna
agreements
change?
now, but it's just licensing and hardware.
Is it gonna change on their end at all what they're doing?
They're
Or
gonna
is it-
have to also, they'll have to also approve what we're giving them on the interlocal agreement, and what we're proposing and what the attorneys are working up is depending on the number of users that that entity has. And we break out all the pay of our IT department, and we divide that with the number of users they have, and that gives you an annual cost for labor. And we'll include mileage in there just so that we're actually, for years, Mike, Ethan and Bob, and they've been spending, I can't tell you how many hours with these other entities, and we get no labor out of that at all. So that's what we're trying to do here, is make sure that happens. And I'm gonna talk to Bixler today to find out if Travelers, who has it now, has our cybersecurity insurance, can it be one for the whole county and the other ones pay into it? Or how that works, because we certainly don't want somebody coming in the back end from one of the other entities. We're held for ransom and our insurance says, oh, that came in from over there, we're not covering that.
Okay, and then I guess second part, and you said you've been speaking with obviously all the municipalities. And Eric, you said it's gonna go up. Are they also aware of
I
that?
think the only reason it would go up is because they're talking about labor.
Right.
Now, nobody pays anything.
That's the only difference.
Yeah, see, that isn't gonna really take effect this year. We haven't asked for payments for
So
this year
we
yet.
have never have.
So, yeah, so this, what we're talking about with payments will take place in
Following
twenty
year.
twenty-six. So we'll talk to them and give them an idea of what it's gonna be, and
Yeah.
then they can decide where they wanna be on our network or not, once they see those figures.
If they choose not to, then services will be eliminated on their end.
They'll have to find,
Yeah, they'll just have to find an outside company to support them. As well as if we can't answer the insurance company, issue, the insurance support, my suggestion is a daily. Because it's just that big of a risk.
And as you said before, we're one of few counties
work to get it.
that even
Yeah.
have a
There are
giant
counties
blanket
that
over
are
the
doing
county.
this, but they've met all these restrictions.
Nothing is free.
They found ways to do it. They found ways to budget. They found, like that's 4601 fund or whatever it is. They found these ways to do this sort of thing. And so we've now done that. Our last hurdle that I can see is this insurance thing. And if we can get that
Which might be the
answered for
biggest one.
these people, then I'm good with this staying on the way it is, if we can get that. But if we can't get over that hurdle, boy, I just see it that we're gonna be in a mess if we don't have that answered, you know?
So would some of the current IT budget then get paid for ourselves, get paid out of this non-reverting fund too?
That, we're trying to keep that solely the way the ordinance is gonna be written up
I'm just thinking
Will
like
be
the labor and
for
stuff
the
like that.
municipal. Yeah,
So they would pay.
their interlocal agreements would be paid into 401(k).
And then some of that would have to pay out of it to help pay for labor and pay for things that we are actually incurring the cost for, like as a reimbursement or something.
All of that will be
Yeah.
figured out as we go forward, and GIS, cybersecurity will be separate places, accounts. As a matter of fact, the discussion yesterday was cybersecurity isn't necessarily just confined to the 9,600 budget. There could be cybersecurity within other departments' budgets, potentially, that could be moved into that cybersecurity line. Because I think the more that's in there that covers cybersecurity, the more IoT is gonna be pleased with it.
Yeah.
I would think.
We have many things, we talked about different software pieces that would be what the hackers would want to get into because of personal information and things like that. And so we have to have the right kind of software there that's been well approved and so on. Yeah, so it's,
Shannon?
Just wanted to go back real quick to what you mentioned. I was thinking about labor. I don't know if we really talked about that. We briefly kind of mentioned it. But we could pull partial salaries from 4016, but I might not consider that until 27, just to give it some money to kind of fund
Grow.
itself. But yeah, we could definitely do partial salaries from that fund if we needed to not build it so high that you could then only spend it on X things. You know what I mean? But maybe give it a year to kind of let it settle.
Make sure that ordinance
And
is
then
written as
27,
such.
yeah.
But what I was gonna ask, partially what I was gonna ask, as far as labor, if Byrne Fire Department they're on our system. How does the labor get applied there since it's our system? That's what we keep saying, our system, but then we're charging them for labor.
Anything that we would go down and fix, repair, look at,
But
travel,
would be fixing our stuff.
not necessarily, not if it's located in Bernard.
Like Geneva, Bob's been down there for weeks, putting in new equipment, stuff like that. No one down there has the ability to put in that stuff, so. and
Well, that's
they
what I'm
need that
asking,
stuff.
because we say it's ours, it's our
It's
stuff.
Geneva, they purchased it through the ARPA
Okay.
fund that you guys
Through
gave
ARPA,
us.
yeah.
All
So
right.
it's actually their hardware.
But no one down there has any idea how to make it work with our stuff, so Bob's been down there for weeks, I don't know how many days, but he's been down there working, getting that stuff put together. Put back up, servers and.
They had to buy
Switches.
their own switching, they had to buy their own circuits. I mean, I buy them, but then I charge them back for, what it costs for usage and the equipment and stuff.
So versus them calling Best Buy and having them come and
Yeah.
pick up, we go do it.
And it's not just physical labor either. Think about support as well. I mean,
Mhm.
anytime that anybody needs a password change or anything related to IT, they're calling one of the 3 or 4 of them. Even though they're not technically one of our employees or one of our users. So the formula that we all kind of thought about might be good was to take the fringe benefit rate for Mike, Ethan, and Bob, divide that out by the total number of users on the network. So you get a per user rate, right? And then multiply that number by the number of users for each municipality. So they're only truly paying what they have in their organization, not for everything else. So like, I think when we did the math on Geneva's costs, it was roughly like 10 grand a year for labor. It wasn't a ton because they don't have very many users. So obviously the city of Decatur would be more, but it just spreads out their salaries and their fringe that we have to pay to have them on staff to support them a little bit across the board versus the county consuming all of those costs.
But that would be like their base rate versus, like right now, you said Bob's been down Geneva for weeks. That would get billed above and beyond, right?
No, that's just all part of the support, because what he's been doing down there was because of the ARPA thing. We bought you guys approved the ARPA stuff for them going down there. It's not like he goes down there on a regular basis and does that. It's like, once we have everything up and running, then we can remote in from our desktop and do the stuff. But we had to put in new equipment. We had to work with the different companies to get all the circuits and everything working, because some of them have multiple circuits.
Yeah, that's
And things
fair.
like that. And so, yeah, don't think that that's a common occurrence, that we're down there all the time and doing those sorts of things. I mean, once we get everything working, we can do a lot of the fixing from our desktops at that point.
Any other questions on any of the proposed things that are occurring? Great. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Don't talk so much.
Yeah, Barb, try to be quiet out there, would you?
It doesn't say a word.
Not in my head.
I saw that.
So when you start to get into this, it'll be all.
Well, this is the right way to go. This is better going forward.
Yeah.
The funding, you want it to be $100.
Don't need anything else.
I believe I got all of mine covered. I just gotta go down and get those signatures and.
I
Yeah,
have
that's,
an email that I sent you guys,
that's
if
all
that's
that I
okay, if I talk about whenever you're ready. Now? So I sent you guys an email last week, just wanted to get your thoughts on it. We created that comp package that just formalized the process that we follow for wages, for reviewing wages, for wage increases every year in 2022. You guys signed that in March of 22. So I just sent you some thoughts on changes to that. And just wanted to get your feedback on it and see what you had to say.
Everything in yellow is
A change, yes.
change, right?
Yep. I didn't wanna send you the original and you had to read through both. That was silly.
So right now, we just have it as full-time employees.
It's full-time, non-exempt categorized. So we have 177 full-time and only 80 of them are eligible for that 25-cent eval. So that's like the 47% that I mentioned. So those are the hourly, non-exempt categorized employees is that 80 of the
We're just talking about
177.
including the exempt as well.
Exempt and uncategorized and anybody full-time except for. So it would add 80, 85-ish people to that, and then it's $520 per year per person. So if I didn't do the math, but 87.5 times 520 is your maximum that you would be spending, like total. And then additional per year for those extra 85
So we're
people.
talking about $45,000 roughly.
And that's, again, that's for everybody. And this would not include elected, it wouldn't include part-time. And then still everybody in the matrix still wouldn't be eligible for the education. It would just be the others, so. And then the only other changes I made to this, which are kind of unrelated to whether you decide to open up that eval increase or not, is I created a new evaluation form in 2025 that we deployed. So I adjusted the scale down to how that form works. So the base is now 3, whereas the base at the beginning or on the old form was 5. So the scale has now changed as well to what the increase would be based on their score. Because before it worked down from 5 and now it fluctuates, plus or minus 3 versus being at the top.
Going forward, will these be adjusted by inflation or what?
So the eval is a flat 25, and then you guys have the choice every year, year over year, to decide if you want to offer an annual increase or a cost of living increase. And this says that you can decide either a percentage or a flat dollar, but the 25 cents does not get adjusted, no.
Evaluation stuff has all been the same.
Correct.
And we adjust the wages every year,
Right.
which we are, when we do, I guess I'm not sure about this, but when we decide on whatever the rate of change is gonna be for wages, are we applying that to the starting wages?
Yes, and typically
Okay,
we do,
we
but
should
we give
be,
you the choice. We always come to you and say, would you also like to increase the starting wages? And then we get approval on both. Just because I don't want to assume that
Well, that
Right.
band should change
yes.
every
But
year.
we come to you every year and say, would you also like to increase the starting wages as well? And get you to approve that too,
Yep.
just so it's done on both sides.
So is this something we need to answer today?
It would be more helpful if you could, but you don't have to. As far as what I understand about how budgeting works, Tony might be able to help me. We still would have an opportunity if you decided in July that you wanted to change it, where we could adjust the salaries a little bit if we needed to for each of these people who didn't previously budget for it this month, but we could adjust it before we send it off to the state in July.
And we're just talking about applying the evaluation process to everybody but elected employees and.
Yep.
Yeah, so I mean,
Everybody that's full-time except for elected, yeah, part-time still wouldn't be eligible.
When you submit budgets to DLGF, and this year our workshop with them is August 6th, so it'll have to be before then. That's when you couldn't then meet on the 29th at your workshops and go higher than what we've put in there. That's when it has to be high. When you guys have your workshops, that's when you lower it. You say yay, nay, or whatever, and you start lowering that budget so that when you have the public hearing, you guys will have the true number of the budget that you're proposing to the public.
And
So-
keep in mind too, that every year, the auditor's office and I always go through after the salary ordinance for the following year is created. We always go through each individual salary line item in every budget and make sure that it matches what's on the ordinance. So we're gonna do that anyways, regardless of this.
so with people who are not exempt, that's obvious. You're just adding whatever that rate is up to 25 cents to their hourly wage.
Correct.
I assume with exempts, whatever that rate is, you're just multiplying it by 2080.
Yes, yeah, we would just add the 520 to their annual salary. Yep.
Are we becoming more compliant in employee evaluations?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I got, as far as I can remember, last year, I've gotten everybody's back. This year I've only gotten like 4 or 5 departments, but deadline's Friday. Like I said, this was the first year that I deployed a new form, so I'm interested to see what the results of that are. And I also told the department heads too, that like, I'm open to change on whether that form meets their needs, because it's a tool that we're using at the end of the day. So we can always adjust the tool to better do what we need it to do. But yeah, we absolutely get evaluations back. It's just that 50% of them, they don't technically hold any monetary value. They definitely hold other value, but not monetary, so.
So who, I don't even remember for sure, who qualifies as exempt? What are some of those positions? You have to give me names, just positions.
Mike, Ethan, Bob, Barb, Brad, Mark Wynn, Rick, Sheriff Dan when he's elected, Eric, Alex at the jail. Like
Basically department heads for the most part.
positions for the most part.
Then
I think
the
there's probably,
uncategorized is a little different though, because that one was ones that we were gonna reevaluate their wages every single year based on the market.
and that does not occur. Which is probably a me thing more than anything, I don't know what to do, but. I think there's like 15 or 16 exempt employees, if I had to give you a guess, I could look real quick.
So the largest number of, or that are not, that don't currently fall into this are non, are, well, if there's only 15 or 16, they're uncategorized, that's probably right.
So the vast majority of those people are at the jail. So most of them are in their matrix. And then you have, I would say probably 20%, 25% of the people who are not exempt are non-exempt, uncategorized.
So how many people does this actually affect?
If we made this change, it would affect roughly 85 full-time.
So in that 177 full-time, the jail staff is not included, anybody at the jail?
They're under majors.
They are. We have 177 full-time period, including everybody in the
Including the
matrix.
jail?
Including the jail, exempt, non-exempt, categorized, uncategorized, everybody, 177 is the number. But that includes elected too, because they're technically in the system as full-time. So if you take out those 7, I think it is, we'd be at 170. And then 80 people currently are eligible for this. So the other 90, I don't know, 90 people would get this additional if you guys decided to add it.
Because they're either exempt, on a matrix, or uncategorized.
Or part-time.
Well, right, but the part-time aren't in that 170.
Correct. Oh, yeah, yes, sorry.
So that's where you get the 45,000 a year,
Yeah.
90 people.
Right.
Yeah,
roughly.
45, between 45 and 50,000 was gonna be.
So who does the performance evaluations for exempt folks that are like department heads that are not elected?
So the ones who have a direct report, so like at the jail, sheriff does Eric's and Alex's, and then for the department heads who don't have a direct report that are the report, the commissioners do theirs, which they do them every year. We're doing it next week together. They sit every year, and then we bring the employee in just like we would anybody else. And they offer it to them. Any thoughts down here?
Makes sense.
It just changes wages, doesn't change benefits. Well, perf, I guess, a little bit maybe.
It would change quite a bit.
Yeah.
And then the other thing you're changing is before it was 3, anything, because they get graded 1 to 5, right?
Correct. So
So
before
it
it was,
was 3 and above was proportionate basically, right?
yes,
And now if they have a 3.7 out of 5, they're getting the full 25 cents.
yes, because again, the average is now 3. So I'm expecting, and I have gotten, of the ones that I've received back, most of them are falling within 3.2 to 3.8-ish.
Yeah.
Of the ones I've gotten back so far. And I went round and round mentally on this, and this is just one suggestion. If you don't like this, I can come up with something else. But I really struggled with it. It almost feels like it needs to be 4 to 1 or 4 to 0 versus 5. I feel like 5 might be too big. And that's where I said I would be willing to update the form and make changes to the form or the scale if it better met my needs. But I struggled, I'm not gonna lie to you, I struggled with the scale.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I don't think, I want people to still have the benefit, right? So if, you know, what's the difference between a 3.7 and a 4 and a 5? Nothing, right? So that part of it, I feel like you should keep, you know what I mean? Like you need to get benefit all the way to the top, not, otherwise you're just going to 3.7 at that point.
So you think that if I spaced out the 5 cents and made like more intervals, that would be helpful? Because I didn't want to make it so out of reach that nobody could get the 25 was my goal too. Do you know, like,
I mean, if you're getting grade out of 1 to 5, I think a 5 should be the full bonus. I mean, it just makes sense. Otherwise, it's like saying on a grade, you can get A through F, but we're not gonna count A's because you might not be attainable. Well, then why are we grading to an A?
Even if it were 4.5 or 4.6 and above, got the 25 cents. I mean, when you're looking at the 1 to 5 range, really anything below a 3, you're probably
it's not where we want you to be anyways.
right.
Probably shouldn't be working here.
So, I mean, that would be my biggest thing too.
So let me rework the scale, and then you guys, if it's okay, you think about the 25 cents for everybody else, and then I'll come back in July. I'll send you a couple scales as an example, and then I'll come back in July and we can talk about it again. Is that okay?
So first of all, I think ultimately, the original question is, do we want to essentially include everybody? I mean, now we're talking about the scale. We can adjust the scale whenever. For guidance on the budget though, do we want to include an additional 80 or 85 people or whatever?
45,000
Which
max.
is 45 to 50,000.
How many of those are uncategorized? Because the uncategorized is the one I'm the most questionable about.
All of that. I have a giant list.
And I don't mean matrix, like I think matrix are also uncategorized, but I don't mean them.
So full-time uncategorized, and this is data from March, so I'm a little behind, but it should be close. And this is exempt and non-exempt, I've got 14 uncategorized. So I created this big spreadsheet and I basically have everything on it about a person and their pay information, and I have a pay theory column. So my pay theories are ACSO matrix, categorized, contract, elected, Indiana statute, probation matrix, and then uncategorized are my choices.
So what is that like?
I mean, my gut says I'm
8% or something
9%.
of people that are 9% that are not categorized.
I mean, the uncategorized, I'm not a huge fan of that, just because that's the whole idea of them is you don't fit in anything anywhere. And we're gonna come up with a number for you based on the market, you know, is it a nurse, is it a doctor, is it a lawyer, you know, somebody like that every year. So but I get it. I like the idea of evaluating people and you have an incentive. I mean, I do like that. I want people to have some accountability.
I think that if wage review, and again, this is definitely me, and we talked about this extensively last year. But I think that if wage review actually did those reviews each year, then I could agree with you and justify that as well, but it's not occurring right now. And if we wanted to plan to do that, we could. But since it's not happening, and I don't know, I think that even if we did do that, I would still feel like it would be appropriate to just have that little extra recognition of, hey, we realize you did a good job this last year, you know, the 4%, whatever is technically cost of living. Here's a little bit extra because you did not better than your counterpart, but you get this and you get this based on your performance.
It's like right now, we have like 80-some people that get evaluated.
Correct.
But they don't get no bump in pay.
Correct.
All they get above paid.
Well, I
They
mean, like
do, it's
2 or
just
3%,
what-
whatever.
Yeah,
but-
it's the
But
annual.
as far as
that's
this,
Honestly, I don't have a big problem in including everybody. For me personally, you know what, the wages, the way we set wages are always difficult, just like uncategorized. I would love to have those people in some type of category, but maybe we need to try to evaluate that every year. Can we plug somebody in here or there, but, yeah, I don't have a big problem with it. I'm going to say okay to that part, but, and then just kind of adjusting the scale, like like we were talking about.
Brad?
So just a couple questions. I've discussed this with Shannon a little bit. I'm just gonna use the highways as an example. You know, as far as the being categorized or uncategorized, I mean, Shannon, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel kind of with us, we're kind of as far as the categories go, we can be a difficult problem sometimes to fit in somewhere. Does that make sense? And so I think that's kind of, you know, part of that discussion.
We do think you're difficult.
Oh, yeah. We know that.
Just
You
kidding.
can ask. You know, that's one thing to keep in mind, like us also.
Right.
And then just another comment about the evaluations, you know, and I've talked with Shannon about this for a couple of years. I'll be honest, I didn't like the old evaluation, just the way some of the questions or the wording was in that. And she did a good job and changed it, and I feel it's more appropriate. Now, if you look at the one this year, though, you know, you guys were discussing, well, if a person doesn't get a 5, and this is just discussion, they may not get the 25 cents. But if you look, I believe on there that, you know, the way she set it up, it's like they always exceed standards. And a 4 is consistently exceeds standards. And I'm gonna be honest, for anybody that consistently or all the time exceed the standard, you know, that's tough also.
Well, I think, I think this is always gonna be a little bit of a balancing act, because the department heads are always gonna want to have loyalty to their people, right? So you're gonna wanna give them 5s just because you wanna see them get money. But somehow we have to try and figure out, to me, I think your scale needs to reflect, you don't get any bonus until you're doing better than what we expect from you, right? It's not like you just get it to get it. You know, if you're a mediocre employee and you're only getting a 3 out of 5, again, depending on how the questions are worded, to me, I'm like, okay, let's set the threshold. You need to be receiving a blank. And if you're not receiving that, there's no bonus, right? We're not incentivizing you to do a bad job. But when you're doing better than the average, there should be bonus. So we don't want people being like, 25 cents is what I need to figure out how to get to all my people, and I've deserved that. This is meant to be, do a really good job, you get extra, you know, and it needs to be seen as a bonus and not I'm owed that. I don't know how we deal with that and help people see it that way, but that's what it's supposed to be.
That's always tough.
And like I said, I'll work up some other scales, you know, keeping all this feedback in mind and send them to you guys. At least so we can talk about that in July, because you're right, we can't adjust the scale anytime and it's your decision. I didn't feel comfortable making that decision on what the scale is, so.
So the question to help with the budgeting stuff, I mean, again, I'm fine with it. Do we want to vote on it? I mean, how's everybody feel about that?
I'll make a motion to proceed.
Just, we'll figure out the scale later.
Yeah.
You good with that?
As long as we get that scale a lot tighter, yeah. I mean, to me, I kind of liked where it was, where you had to get a 3 or above before you even start getting anything. And then sort of evenly spread it out, I think would make sense. But as long as we can keep that tight, then I'm okay.
So what's your motion, John?
Approve this,
Just to approve it, setting it to the,
So
to everybody
full-time-
except for the people she mentioned.
all full-time except elected.
yes.
Thank
I'll
you
second.
very much. I
We
appreciate
have a
that.
motion to approve and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
So you're gonna adjust the scale then, is what you're saying, Shannon?
Yes, I'm gonna adjust the scale and then send you a couple options. And then I'll just take off my yellow highlighting for July, and then you can officially sign that thing, next month, because it won't be effective until January 1st. It's what we're talking about pages, so that's why we're right now.
And the scale we're talking about is in section 5C, right?
Yes,
I've never seen it.
yes, yep, that highlighted deal is the one I'll adjust. And like I said, I used the old one of the 5 cents gaps, but maybe I need to look at if it needs to be smaller gaps, than 5 cents. Okay, thank you.
And, well, I guess, Julie Marie, quick question, since we're on this. It seems like we're getting maybe a blurred line of where employee management is that supposed to be a commissioner, how they set up this evaluation and the scales? versus, are we doing this backwards? Do commissioners manage the employees and how they're,
Yes.
and how these evaluation sheets and their scales?
Yes, because they're basically the oversight of human resources, so they have to make sure that all employees.
So they need to be
are
on board with this too, I guess.
So, yeah, that's where I was getting at. I just, we passed it for us, so it
So contingent
skated
upon-
anything, yeah, but I think this
Contingent upon
falls
their
more
approval.
on the commissioners.
Right.
Well, but see, like to my point, I'm not willing to fund this money unless I know that we've got a tighter scale of what we're grading it on, right? So to me, that scale matters. Like I don't wanna pay this if the scale is just, pretty much everybody gets it.
I guess when we were doing it, it seemed to be like, should be up to them, or we're approving the money.
Yeah.
I just wanted
To me, I guess my question is always, what do we get for it? Are we achieving the goals that were established when we first set that incentive pay up? And are we getting the credit for it then from an employee attraction and employee retention perspective? So those are the things that I think Shannon needs to help us understand is, yes, I use it this way. Yes, we get benefit for it when I'm trying to hire an employee, because as I think you're exactly right, the compensation piece and the funding to compensation, that's all you guys. From our perspective, we're trying to figure out how to staff appropriately and make sure that we've got the right people in the right place doing the job the very best they can. So what are the tools we use to do that? Is this a tool that's still accomplishing what we wanted it to when we first set it up? Or is it something that's maybe served its purpose and we need to move on to something else, or completely move away from it and just add the 25 cents to the salary scale, and quit tying it to evaluations? Because it always feels to me like the money is out there, almost everybody gets it, but it's not really reflected in a compensation discussion that I would have if I were trying to hire somebody. It's like, oh yeah, and don't forget, we've got 25 cents out here that you might get and you might not. I'm gonna assume I'm not gonna get it then when you're trying to hire me. But I want to make sure that we're getting the benefit for it that we're paying. You're paying and we're getting the benefit.
Yeah.
So that's just my only question. I have no problem with what you're doing. And Doug, don't let me speak for you, but
Well, you gotta be awful careful that you don't have a department head that is rewarding a person because they're always cooperative and always doing what they're asked to do, but sincerely, they're doing an outstanding job. And that could vary from department to department. The other thing I think we need to keep in mind is, if the council decides to fund this, is the fact that if a person gets it this year, doesn't mean that it's forever. Is that correct?
It's a requalification each year, right?
Each year.
Yeah.
Yeah. And,
So
you know, sometimes, I don't disagree with the concept at all, but sometimes implementing something like this makes it tough on the department heads. I mean, if they're all doing a good job, you're gonna get to everybody. And if there's two in the department that don't get it, you know, it can make for some sore feelings on the other end too.
if
Honestly,
I remember
that's-
correctly, the reason we put it in place was we just weren't getting evaluations completed. It's like, how are you gonna force a department head that, especially an elected department head that doesn't work for you as a commissioner, and they just weren't doing evaluations. And so I do believe that over time, this has accomplished that, getting a document into a file that gives us some measure of employee performance. That's really what we were after. So I think we've accomplished that. So is it, do we keep it in place to continue it, or is it served its purpose and it's gone? Or I just want to make sure that $40,000 or twice that, because we're basically doubling the existing participation, that $80 or $90 or $100,000 worth of compensation dollars is getting translated into employees' perceived value for working for the county. That's my only.
I think that's always been our quandary too, like piggyback on what you both said there is, that's where good, honest evaluations matter. And I mean, if you're an employee, you should really want to know if you're falling short or whatever. And if you are doing well, I don't have a problem with rewarding somebody, but yeah, like you said, Doug, it falls to the department. The department had to give an honest evaluation.
What we
That's
don't
out
want,
of our control. I mean,
from our perspective of managing, what we don't want is a system that encourages unfair or inappropriately high evaluations just to get a compensation number, because at that point, we don't get a good measurement of employee performance. And we also don't get the ability to correct unacceptable or performance that falls short. We just get all these fives. And then when we go to a file to try to look at an employee that maybe is struggling, it's like, well, we've always got these fives. Well, they got them, so they got their 25 cents. So it's like, that's a system that is built for disaster from employee management as well.
so that's the exact things we were saying a couple years ago and struggling with this, but
Yeah.
But
that is where the compensation package is always a struggle, because you do want to try to incentivize people. I mean, hey, I have bonuses where I work,
Absolutely.
and it gets, you,
My way of thinking over the years, and I've dealt with evaluations. Evaluations are most important when you've got a person that is falling short. And if you give them a PIP, a personal improvement plan, and they don't respond to that, if you don't have an evaluation that shows some need for improvement, and it comes, sooner or later, it comes to a time when, hey, this person's on the line for future employment. If you don't have the evaluations done properly, you have no way
exactly,
of eliminating a very poor employee.
yep.
And that's a lot more important than an extra 25 cents an hour or whatever.
Totally agree.
And it's not just a struggle for us, it's a struggle across the board. I mean,
Yeah.
we struggle with it where I work too.
Yeah.
It's a struggle every year.
But people, when I was in the education business, I walked up and down the halls and there were other staff members that basically didn't deserve to be there. And the reason they were still there was because there was not an effective evaluation done. And that it's tough, it is, Bob. It's not only education, it's not only county government, it's probably no matter where you guys work.
No matter where you go.
Yep, it's every industry.
From our perspective, what we want is a good evaluation instrument, and we want it completed fairly. And if this helps us get there, then I think it's money well invested.
Yeah, I was just trying to make sure we weren't stepping on,
No,
it's in your
I
hands
was
and
listening
we're,
closely, and I think they're doing just fine. They don't
Okay.
need my input.
All right.
Yeah, ultimately though, I mean, I think that's not a bad thing to remind people who do evaluations, from your guys' point of view, to remind them why it is important to be accurate.
Right.
Because like you alluded to, if you have somebody that's walking the line and then maybe they get worse, you needed some groundwork, because now you're opening yourself up to litigation. So,
And you're not fair to the employee. If at evaluation time, they get fives, and all the rest of the year, you're trying to help them get better, and you're expecting and requesting improvement, and then evaluation time, it's like all exceeds expectations, like, what's my message there? I don't get it.
yeah, and it's not fair to their coworkers either.
And all of your employees, without the evaluation, all the employees know who's doing the job. They know. So the department head, if they've got a weak employee, and they decide to get fives, their hands are tied.
Oh, there you go.
Thank you.
Shannon, on this current scale that he sent us, so that's not what we're using right now, like from 5 to 3.7.
No, that's a proposed. I need you guys to approve a new scale before we finalize the salary ordinance for twenty-six. It's, and again, keep in mind that I changed the form, so the old form is a 5 down, whereas this new scale is 3 up. So the 5 down one, I think, was 5 cents for every interval of 0.4 down to 3, and then 3 was 0. But the old form like encouraged a department head to put a 5, and it didn't really make a lot of sense. So this new one, I explained in a department head meeting that Doug held a couple weeks ago, is that we want people, 3 is the average, like 3 is the baseline. That's where I need to have you, and I can't have you below 3, but I want you to be above 3. So that's where I was trying to take it from 3 up, you know, instead of 5 down, if that makes sense.
But you need the below 3 stuff so they know if they come in at 2.
Right, exactly.
I mean,
Then
so
you have
that's why it
things
is
that you need to work
important.
on, right?
Shannon, do we still use the old email format you sent us for?
No, it's the new one that the 25 one, that was like I think it was like a month ago that it went out, but I can send it to you again.
Just the
The form
scale.
is good, and I think the form really sets in our realm. The evaluation and how that ties into the compensation strategy, I think sets squarely in your realm.
I think we're okay with it. But again, just having the scale
Okay.
reflect that, you know, you truly want your best performers to get,
Keep the high,
yeah,
right?
and
Okay,
so
I'll
on.
work on it. Okay, thank you.
That's it.
Any other matters to be brought before us?
I have an ask of, and it's a big ask of you guys. The budget hearing is Monday, August 25th. I have to be out of town that week. And I will not have access to enter. Is there any possible way we could move that to the week before? Because I want to be part of the budget hearing, but I have to be out of town that week.
And I know that would have to be voted on because that hearing date has already been submitted in the DLGF.
I understand that, and that's
So-
what I'm asking before we.
Council will have to, Julie, is that all they'd have to do is just vote to,
All you have to do
Make
is
a new day.
vote and,
So move
yeah,
it to the
pick another
18th is
day.
what you're wanting?
Anytime the week before, any day.
I mean, can we,
What about that?
can we do Friday just so it's, cause I don't know how much. I remember we did a whole bunch of math on how it all had to line up.
there are certain days.
Right. We
So
have
if
it all
we-
money, even if we can do
we
it
just
Friday
stay
or
close,
Thursday before.
just to be
And I know
safe.
it's a huge ask, but I would really appreciate it because I do
Moving
have to
it
be out of
back a
town.
week, you'd be okay because
So just that
What
one.
about-
public hearing,
Town that whole
What
week.
about-
September
I have
public
to be out
hearing
that
has to
whole
be
week.
10 days after the budget workshop.
What about like Friday, the 22nd?
Scheduled. It's Monday the
Yeah.
25th, so I'm asking.
That should work.
Anytime
That
the
should
week
work.
before.
So is everybody okay with Friday, the 22nd, if we moved it today?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
So we need a motion.
Only cause we like you, Bob.
I really appreciate it, guys, because I want to, you know, I know it's a huge ask, but I have to be out of town.
Bob,
that
don't talk too
following
much, we're gonna
week.
say no.
Who's making
I'll
the
do
motion?
whatever it takes to get it moved.
Bob, you wanna make that motion for the 22nd?
I make a motion to move our budget hearing from Monday, August 25th to Friday, August 22nd.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Start, is that gonna be?
Is that the 8 AM?
Is that the one we start at 8?
8 o'clock, yes.
Exceptions.
We're starting at 8, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Just have to put that new date in. That's a lot easier than moving a public hearing or something like that, since it's just your budget workshop.
22nd.
Friday, August 22nd, 8 AM.
Right, that's the hearings or the workshop?
That's the budget workshop, where you're here all day.
Bring your lunch. I will make sure lunch is here that day.
I'll come for that.
We're gonna have to determine as we go along also, council, who when you look at the departments, who do you want to come? Who's over the percentages? You know what I'm saying?
And
Because
so,
there won't be time to meet with every department.
right, well, and we haven't needed to, but I mean, can we get the full budget printed out with the extra column on the side?
And we'll show
with
the
that?
percentages and all, just like we did last year, yep.
So, yeah, and I guess
When can we get that?
we said we won't have to make any edits for this IT situation yet, because this is gonna be a zero.
Right.
Okay, so next year we'll do that.
You should get that end of July, first part of August. And then you'll meet on the 22nd.
Which I think for the hearings, Nate Rumschlag is, he sent the email to us. He's already requested to present
Yeah.
that day.
Several will request to come anyway.
Motion to adjourn.
Brad.
Brad.
Dennis, Brad's been trying to go.
Brad.
Just an update. A heads up for you, our projects that we've been, talking about for years, and I forewarned you, I think, a few months ago, our 700 South project from 27 to 150, it has now started. So, setting a time frame for that up until we had the bids and that, and talk with the excavating company, it was tough. It has now started, so I want to give you a heads up that in a few months here, once the project is done, we will be coming in and asking for a large additional so we can pay for that project. Just to let you know, it's gonna be within a few months. And
Honestly, that's-
also,
Honestly, that's something I think we're all fine with, just because we're trying to get
yeah,
accurate budgets, so if
Yes.
it's gonna, something like that happens, we're good with that.
yeah, and I just wanted to let you know it's gonna
Yeah.
be coming, so it's not a big surprise, it's gonna be big. And then just also 300 north, I don't know if you've noticed, from 27 to 700 west is being paved. You need to go down that road when they're done, what a change, and that is part of the community crossings project.
What road is that?
300 north, 27 to 700 west.
The wheels coming along.
Yep.
All 7 miles?
If it's smooth going to church on Sunday. Oh, it's smooth.
Did we have a motion by Bob and a second by Fred to adjourn? Was that what was?
I didn't second anything, but I will, sure.
Got a motion and a second to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Just a few minutes to go get my other stuff.
That's what I tell you guys, I'm gonna summarize Shannon's whole presentation in one paragraph, because it's just.
No.
It's just.
Verbatim.
One
See you guys later.
paragraph, that's it.
You want this off?
Yeah.
Together.